Welcome, everybody. My name's Marnie, and I have the honour today of introducing to you our author for today, Melissa Walsh. Now, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which Frankston City Libraries operates, the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and future, and of course the elders of any other communities who may be joining us today. Now, if you do have any questions for Melissa, just pop them into the chat box. You'll find that down the bottom of your screen, and then I can read them out. But firstly, congratulations, Melissa, on your new book, Everybody Deserves a Disaster, which I've got right here. I'm absolutely loving the title. I'm loving the picture.
Are you really? Oh, thank you so much, Marnie. There's been a lot of negative discussion about the photo amongst my female daughters. Female children, but I quite like it. I think it's supposed to be, it's a heavy subject, but I hopefully approach it in a fairly light way. So that's what I wanted to convey with that cover.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people can also relate to your story. Now, can you tell us a little bit about it for those that are yet to read it, because it is brand new, and we will have a link up when we do share this on our social media, so you can purchase. But tell us a little bit about it and why you chose this time to write it.
Well, basically, my book, Everybody Deserves a Disaster, is really about a period of my life where I was making some really awful choices. Some things happened with relationships, with a marriage breakup. I was in a really, really dark place, and basically, I guess I begin the book with losing everything, losing the house, the husband. I lost my license for drink driving. I just went into a really dark place, and so it's basically a 6-year period of my journey of coming back from that. I started writing it actually when my father, who I was very close to, became unwell, and it was a way for me to just cope with the feelings that I was having about it. I've always written, whether it's been good things in my life or negative things. I've always liked writing short stories and poetry and things. And I got to a point about 6 months ago where I thought, this is actually a book. Like, this is something that a lot of women and men will, probably more women, but I think some men will relate to this, about the choices that we make, the things that happen in our life, and how to move forward from them. And not in a Pollyanna kind of lighthearted way, but in a way of, just own your stuff, see it as a gift, which is the thing that my dad taught me, and move on.
Absolutely. Now, what was your light bulb moment for you? Like, in those 6 years, at what point did you say, I need to take control of this?
Well, really, the big thing for me was the last marriage breakup. That was actually the marriage that I thought, not the Married at First Sight marriage, the one before that. That was the one I genuinely thought was going to work. And I'd only been married once before, to like my high school sweetheart, and we had our children together, and everything was wonderful, but we grew apart. And I didn't remarry until I was about 40, I'm trying to think, maybe 46, 47. So I had a period of about 17 years when I was by myself, dating, often with the wrong people, finding that I kept dating the same sort of people. When I met my last husband, I actually thought, this is the guy. And so after that marriage broke up, I was completely lost, completely shattered. And it was actually at that point where I lost everything that I realised that I have to make some changes now, and I really had to look inside myself and be very brutally honest about my part in how I got to where I was at. And that's basically it, because I thought, I can't keep doing this.
Absolutely. Now, you did touch on Married at First Sight, and many of the people who will be watching today, while you and I have worked together in the past in your role as a journalist locally, most people will know you from the television show.
Yeah.
At what role did Married at First Sight play in your journey?
Well, Married at First Sight was I did actually go on to that and do that genuinely because I didn't trust my own judgment. After the marriage breakup, I was scared to be dating. I dated a few people, but I really felt like I'm not good at this. And actually, the funny thing about going on to Married at First Sight was I was at home by myself with a bottle of wine, and I saw the advertisement come on, and I thought, oh, bugger it. And I put an application in. I went upstairs and made a video saying, my name's Melissa, I'm 53. I make very bad choices with men. And before I knew it, I was accepted for it. I genuinely felt like they cannot possibly do any worse than I have. So why not?
And that's probably a really good attitude to go into a reality television show with.
Yeah. Look, I was very conscious of the fact that, you sign a contract saying that anything can be done with your words and your image. So they can manipulate it if they want to. I was very, very fortunate that I came across really, really well. As far as I'm concerned, they were very respectful and true to who I was. So, yeah, I was really wrapped. I had a great time doing that show.
No, you go.
I know, I was just going to say, we really had an absolute ball. Obviously, there's certain things you don't have any control, which I don't have a major issue with. I mean, I'd stuffed everything up so much that I figured, hey, let them try and sort of match me with someone. You miss your family and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just such a wonderful adventure.
Absolutely. Now, you do touch on it in your book, and I shared the book with John. What was his reaction? And can you tell us a couple of, I guess, insider stories of the show within reason, obviously with contracts and all that still being in place?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, John had a great reaction. I mean, he knew that I was a journalist. He knew that I loved writing. I mean, even while we were on the show, in our sort of personal time, I'd be doing some writing and things like that. Not necessarily about the show, just my own bit of poetry here and there and things like that. He was lovely. He sent me a gorgeous message saying, Missy, I loved the book. He said, thank you so much for being so kind about how you presented me. And I said to him, of course I would. Like, there's nothing bad to say. That's the thing, So that was really fantastic. And I guess the other part of the question, with things that went on, they film you basically for 12 hours a day, sometimes less, sometimes more, but I would say it averages out to that. That's a lot of time to be filmed, and viewers get to see, an hour and a half, 2 hours of that. And so you think of all of those people that are being filmed for all of those hours, you really don't get to see everything that happens, And so I think that when you watch something like that, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Not necessarily everything's 100% real.
I can understand that. Now, I will, if anyone does have any questions for Melissa, please pop them in the chat. It's just located down the bottom. You just press on the chat button or the Q&A button, and that'll come up for me to be able to read them out to Melissa. Now, in the process of recording your own story, I guess there are plenty of people out there, writers, non-writers, who are looking to record their own stories.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them about starting?
I think basically in terms of writing your own story, you just have to sit down and start writing. To me, I don't believe in writer's block. I feel like we get in our own way as far as confidence goes. I think that, for example, when I started, my only kind of experience is that I started literally by writing about my own experiences. I think that's a great way to start. That kind of develops your skill as a writer, as well as possibly making it into a really good story that could actually inspire or help somebody on their journey, I think just be confident. And I think also, if it really does turn into something, get a good editor, get a good proofreader. Don't be scared to maybe change a few things. Let it unfold. I think it's like any creative process. You just have to let it kind of unfold and see what it's going to become. But, as a journalist, working for so many years doing feature writing and interviewing so many people, one of the things that I realized is that we all have a story. Every single person has an amazing story to tell, you know, and every single person has got something that someone else can learn. So I would say go for it, write and see what you've got, you know, because I didn't know what this was going to be. And now I finish it and I go, wow, this is really something I'm proud of. And I've got something to say, you know, that might help one person. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And going through that time for you, what was your, I guess, your strength in that? What is the one thing you would want people to take away from your book who are in a similar situation as you were?
Yeah. Look, for me personally, I would love, it would all be worth it, apart from the fact that I'm proud of the book, it would all be worth it if it touched one person so that they thought, I now don't feel bad about myself anymore. You know, I felt so ashamed. I felt so embarrassed and quite disillusioned. And I really berated myself for the things that happened. And I just want people to read that and go, do you know what? I've stuffed up too, but it's possible to move forward. In fact, not only is it possible, it's the title of the book being Everybody Deserves a Disaster, is that my dad said to me, you deserved all of these things to happen, not because there's anything wrong, not because you're a bad person, but because these are your gifts. These are your ways to show yourself how strong you are, what you can learn, and that you deserve more, sort of thing, you know. So I would love it if people reading it come away, if they're having issues, if they're finding themselves, you know, once again in another breakup, or have lost another job, or, you know, the money fell through that they thought they were going to earn, or just that sort of stuff, if they would really and truly kind of look at it and go, okay, that's a gift. Now, don't know why, but it was a gift for Melissa. So, you know, I don't know. It's just that kind of that way. The books that I love to read are the books that are people's true stories, and that, you know, I really tried to be incredibly kind of brutally honest, I guess, about my own faults. And yeah, because it's only like the truth will set you free kind of cliche, but it's true.
Absolutely. And I think it's also a bit of kindness and compassion to ourselves.
Definitely kindness and compassion, and learning really to love yourself. I didn't really understand what that meant until I lost everything. And I realized that part of the catalyst for the decisions that I was making was I really didn't have a great deal of love for myself. I didn't understand what that meant, you know, and then I realized, hold on for a sec, you get to know yourself better and realize what you deserve. And yeah, just self-understanding and self-love is like the best gift you can give yourself.
Absolutely. And I think your dad's advice was 100% on target.
Yeah.
On point. Writing the book, did that help therapeutically with his passing? Because I know he was such a big influence on your life.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Manny. Look, I'm not going to say it helped. I still really struggle with Dad's passing. I get on with things. I know that life is still wonderful as he taught me, but I do miss him terribly. The only thing that's been really wonderful about it is I felt like I did it, Dad. I finally did it. And I kind of talked to him and I feel like he knows, you know. Also, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the title of my book is a title of a poem, the last poem that my dad was writing before he died. So basically I was writing and I'd go into where he was in palliative care and I'd read him a chapter here and a chapter there, and, you know, he might give me advice on bits and pieces. And he had a notebook beside his bed that he always used to write on. And he was writing this poem. And I said to him, what's your poem called, Dad? And he said, Everybody Deserves a Disaster. And I was like, oh my God, I love that. I said, do you mind if I borrow that for the title of the book? And he was like, I'd be absolutely honoured, love. So, yeah, that's sort of, it's kind of a nice, still a nice closeness sort of thing that Dad and I have. That, well, I pretty much did the book in honour of Dad, so I feel very fortunate to have used his title because he didn't get to finish that poem.
And I love, what is his quote, that it's when you've got nothing, you've got style?
Oh, yeah. Well, he has 5 rules to live by, which is, the first one is survive. The second one is pain is inevitable, misery is a choice. The third one is treasure quiet moments. The fourth one is never look for gratitude, just do it. And the fifth one, which Dad and I always used to laugh about, is my favourite, which is when disaster looms, all you have left is style.
I love that.
Me too.
Absolutely. Now, Tom, I know we do have writers who join us on these talks.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has their own publishing story, and for you, you self-published, correct?
I did. I didn't even truly go to any mainstream publishers. I probably could have. I have no idea whether they would have taken it on or not. But I worked sort of doing book editing and helping people with a bit of ghostwriting and things like that. And I'd had one of my writers who had gone to this particular publisher, and I loved his philosophy. And so I actually rang him and just thought, you know what, you're it. So I just went through this publishing house, which has been amazingly supportive, and feel like it's just been a learning sort of part of the learning journey for me as well. Also doing self-promotion and things like that has been all, you know, everything. Every day I'm learning something new.
Well, this is your first Zoom. So
it is. It's my first Zoom.
And we're so glad that it could be with us, Melissa. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Marnie.
Through the process itself, I guess I know we've talked about getting an editor and getting proofreaders. You know, your number one piece of advice for someone, you know, who's got their manuscript happening, it's on its way. What is your number one piece of advice?
Get the right publisher. That is 100%. Whether you send it off to a heap of publishers, obviously if you self-publish, you have to pay for it. There's lots of different places, I'm assuming, that will charge you lots of different kind of prices. I personally think self-publishing is a great way to go, mainly because you have full control over the manuscript. If you want to be if it's very important to you kind of ethically, that things stay exactly as you want them, you have control over everything. But obviously if you go through a mainstream publisher, you don't have to pay for it. You just have to pay kind of bigger royalties, I guess, to them, or a bigger percentage to them. I would say to people, seriously, just go for it. It's a really lovely feeling to have something that you've worked and you really put your heart and soul into there in front of you. You can pick up and look at and go, God, I'm proud of that. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess that's my only advice, is go for it.
Absolutely. And I was actually thinking last night when I got my hands on my copy yesterday afternoon,
yeah,
how proud your children and grandchildren, when they're old enough to read it, when they read it, and what you've seen personally.
Yeah, it's actually really funny that you say that with the grandchildren, because my granddaughter Ava, Chloe's got a book at her house and she had it sitting on her bed, and Ava, who's 5, walked in and goes, what on earth? What is Nana doing on the front of a book? Is she famous, Mummy? Oh my God, how gorgeous is she? And Chloe's like, well, she's not exactly famous, love, but you know, she's written a book. And Ava's like, I want to write a book now. And I just think it's so gorgeous. I love that kind of thing with the kids.
Absolutely. No, that is gorgeous. Hopefully one day she can sit down and write that book, maybe with you.
Yeah. I said to her, well, you know what, sweetie, all you need to do, if you want to start writing some little bits and pieces, doing some drawings, we can put a book together of yours if you like. So we might work on that over the next 12 months, I think.
Absolutely. And I think with your contacts, who knows what might happen?
You never know. So we can put your face on the front of a book as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Melissa's book is available to purchase, and as I said, we will pop the link to that. I think it is what's the website, Melissa?
It's www.everybodydeservesadisaster.com.au.
Oh, perfect. I should have remembered that.
It's pretty easy, although it's a hell of a long title.
It's all good. It is actually easy to remember. As I said, we will pop a link to it when we do share this video on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. And keep an eye out on the Frankston City Library's website, because we have a heap of Frank Talks and workshops coming up with great authors just like Melissa. Please keep safe, everybody, and look out for each other. And we're hoping to see you all back in our libraries as soon as we possibly can. So thank you again, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Manny. It's been great.